Good day, everyone, and welcome to Obedient Family TV. The program is Hope Alive. Yes, there is hope in Nigeria, especially as our senators have started coming out with facts and figures of this very pardon that happened in the Senate. Things must change, that we know. Now, good morning, afternoon, and evening, depending on our time zone. We came this evening to actually have a discussion on this budget, since they are changing our direction from the hunger that is happening and the insecurity. They want us to discuss more on what is happening at the Senate and the pardon of the 2024 budget. So we have researched and came out with some reports that are actually trending on how the National Assembly, how they allocated about 6.6 trillion. You know, we're talking about 3 trillion. And then the executive spoke about pardon of 1.2 trillion. Now, what has been discovered by Micro Expressions Consult and presented to National Assembly showed that National Assembly did more than 6 trillion pardon, and we are going to bring the details of those summary analysis today. That is majorly what we want to go one by one on how and which ministries, because it concerns about 20 ministries. That is where these pardons happen, and we are going to bring all these and the amounts involved and how it all transpired. Because a recent document that actually came out titled Final Summary Analysis of Harmonized 2024 Budget that was passed, produced by Micro Expression Consult and submitted to the National Assembly, provides a concise overview of key items, figures from the 2024 budget, focusing on allocations to some ministries and agencies. Analyzing the document, the report observed that about 2 trillion out of 8 trillion total budget for the capital projects of the 20 select ministries was aggregated into regional projects, presenting substantial challenges in monitoring the funds deployment and gauging its utilization efficacy. This and furthermore, we are going to present it. But I'm not the only one to talk about this. I have the Vine in the studio with me.
Thank you for joining us on this episode. Let's have this conversation.
So, please, wherever you are, you need to also like, share, subscribe. Make sure that other obedience are aware that we are out here to do some expose on the reports about this same budget we are talking about, because a lot has been happening. They have been talking about 1.2 trillion. They have been talking about 3 trillion. Now, what is coming out is another 6.6 trillion. So much money. And there is hunger in the land. So let's start this conversation from where this report starts from, and I want Divine to take this off from slide by slide. Let's see how we can be able to bring the whole volume of this money on each ministry that was padded, so that our viewers will understand there is more to this National Assembly. When we heard in Dume mention that there are equal,
some animals are more equal than the other.
Some animals are more equal. Maybe he has his reasons for calling his colleagues animals, you understand, which he also includes himself. So let's see whether these are actually animal pardon or they are human beings that are pardon 6.6 trillion. So let's take a look at that.
Well, this report continues to say that equally an additional 4.1 trillion was earmarked for projects that lack specific geographic identifiers, thus complicating the traceability and accountability processes regarding what the 6 geopolitical zones got for capital projects in the 20 ministries. Economic Confidential discovered that the Southwest was allocated over 419 billion naira, while the Southeast got 537 billion naira. This is over, right? The exact figures are on the screen, and that the rest were South-South, which garnered over 224 billion naira, Northwest with 365 billion naira, Northeast with 349 billion, and North Central with a whooping 730 billion naira. Right, and it said regarding the Federal Ministry of Youth, a total of 5 trillion was budgeted for various capital projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. Regrettably, the areas for projects worth over 2 trillion out of these 5 trillion were not indicated.
This is now coming from the Federal Ministry of Youth, a total of 5 billion. A total of 5 billion. Now, if, okay, a total of 5
billion, actually.
5 billion was budgeted for various capital projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. But, like you said, regrettably, the areas for projects,
yeah.
You see that, you see the amount. Out of the 5, we just see it is worth 2 billion. Out of the 5.
Only 2 billion were indicated.
Where out of the 5 were not indicated.
Right.
Okay, let's take the other slide that has to do with slide 4.
Well, they proceeded to say that on the Federal Ministry of Sports, 21 billion naira was earmarked for various capital projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. Sadly, the area for projects worth over 7 billion naira out of the 21 billion naira were not reviewed. Right. So, similarly, on the Federal Ministry of Defense, 3 trillion was set aside for various capital projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. However, the area for projects worth 3 trillion out of the 3.7 trillion were not mentioned.
And then it goes on and on to see. On the Federal Ministry of Special Duties, we have about 10 billion was budgeted for various capital projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. Surprisingly, the area where projects worth about 4 billion out of the 10 billion were not identified and were not identified. Now, if we go to the next distance, furthermore, the Federal Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, this is another ministry again. Federal Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning was allocated 2 trillion, over 2 trillion for various capital projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. Now, unfortunately, the areas for projects worth 383 billion out of the 2 trillion were not stated. This is clearly on the screen. On the 7th slide, please, producer, try to make sure that 7 slide is there for them to understand what were not on those projects. As we can see, unfortunately, at the down bottom, the areas for projects worth 383 billion out of the 2-point-something trillion were not stated. Let's get to number 8. Again, that is coming on the Federal Ministry of Tourism. In this Federal Ministry of Tourism, about 15 billion was pegged for various capital projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. However, the areas for projects worth about 1.2 billion out of the 15 were not disclosed. This is coming out from this same budget pattern. Let's get to 9. On the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources, we see about 8 billion naira, as can be displayed on the screen. About 8 billion was set aside for various capital projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. However, the areas for projects worth 8 billion 554 million 622,753 out of the 8 6 were not mentioned. So I want us to be looking at the discrepancy, the difference on each ministry, the difference that is remaining. Now, we get to the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs. In this Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, we have about 12 billion.
12 billion that was earmarked for various capital projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. However, the area for projects worth 4 billion out of these 12 billion were not disclosed. That is in the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, right? And it's just really sad.
You can see the difference in this is very huge.
Very huge difference.
Very huge.
Even in the Federal Ministry of Justice, 33 billion naira was budgeted for various capital projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. Surprisingly, the areas for projects worth 25 billion out of these 33 billion were not identified.
We should always look at this is Federal Ministry of Justice. The people will be saying I didn't get the justice. The people will be saying they no suppose lie put inside. When they tie cloth for their eyes, will be saying nobody they know they sin and them they give us justice. Now these same people, they pad their budget and they also know. Look at the difference. 33 and we're looking at 25. We are not identified. Let's look at number 12. That is the Federal Ministry of Police Affairs.
The Federal Ministry of Police Affairs, a total of 99 billion naira was budgeted for various capital projects across the 6 geopolitical zones, according to the document. However, the areas for projects worth 49 billion out of this over 99 billion were not mentioned. And this is in the Federal Ministry of Police Affairs.
We check the difference. 99 billion against 49 billion. This is coming from different ministries, and like we stated earlier, this is a report that the National Assembly has. This is an open secret, if you call it. They want things to be exposed, and it is coming out one by one. A total of 6.6 trillion padded that has been exposed so far.
At this point, it's more than padding. I think this is stuffing, because from the differences, the discrepancies that we can see in this budget so far from what has been made available to us through these reports, was saying that they did not just pad. When you're padding something, it's probably you put just one layer or two. These people actively stuffed the budget. In fact, I don't even think this is a budget. This is just really a ploy for them to siphon money, because the tunes of billions and millions that we're actually talking about, it's not money that is negligible. This is not money we can look away from. They stuffed this budget with money that can actually turn around the life of the entire Nigeria, because student loan that is being postponed is just 5 billion, but we're having, look at the Federal Ministry of Policing or whatever, we're having 59 billion, or rather 99 billion as opposed to 49 billion. So we're talking an estimate of 50 billion that is not accounted for, but student loan is 5 billion. So it's just very interesting to see, because they're suspending the whistleblower. They don't know that at this point now they need to do more than suspension, because now everybody's eyes is actually on this situation. We can see that they did not just pad it, they took their time, they stuffed this budget.
I think I buy Divine's approach. She said it is purely stuffing and not padding. So guys, we should from now on stop talking about padding. This is not padding. This is stuffing the budget. Right. Stuffing the budget. And some people have said, hey, that these people should be queried. They should be taken to court, you understand? And I don't know why everybody is keeping quiet. This thing is out there in the open, and we are bringing it also. We have this very one from Federal Ministry of Agriculture. About 895 billion was budgeted for various capital projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. Regrettably, the areas for projects worth 124 billion. Oh my God. Out of 895 we are not indicated. This is not padding. And of course, this is not that kind one will be say if you want still then go talk say you just want pinch and waiting then they call that one will be say then go talk say okay na tapping.
Oh,
say you just tap them. This one not be tapping, this one is stuffing. Oh my goodness. From 124, from 895, we're talking about 124. That is from the Ministry of Agriculture. So how are they going to help our farmers? We are entering the rainy season. Okay, let's look at 14. On the Federal Ministry of Solid Minerals, 26 billion. You can see the figures. 26 point something billion was pegged for various capital projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. However, the areas where projects worth 21 billion plus out of the 26 were not disclosed. We are not disclosed. Let's move further. Yes, well, you see this very one, the discrepancy again.
Well, it's just interesting. The point I was trying to make is that it's really less about this padding right now, or rather this stuffing, right? We understand that 6.6 trillion, this is what we currently have, the reports, the figures we currently have. We could wake up tomorrow and to go from 6.6 and then there'll be a new revelation and we realize that in fact the entire budget was a sham, right? But now what is interesting me, or the point I want to make out, is that these places that we are unable to account for the money, right? There's no guarantee that these ones that they wrote that is accounted for, that they're going to be used. So when they say there is 895 billion that was allocated and 124 billion is we're unable to account for where the project is going to be, there's still no guarantee that the 895 billion naira that is supposedly accounted for, we're going to actually see it. This is just things that the auditing firm just is working with what we saw on paper. This was the ones that we knew that, okay, you know what, they wrote something there. It could be something as frivolous as saying you're using 895 billion naira to actually buy fridge. It could be something that we know that is not true. There's no guarantee that aside the ones missing, the ones that they actually wrote on paper is going to be implemented or used. So now we're not just, you know, the conversation is not just about the one that is missing, it's also about the one that they wrote. Because if you look at it, we've seen, I mean, it was our Senate President's constituency that had 20.5 billion for things like freezers and what's it called, street lights. And if you do the calculation, you see that on an estimate, if we are going by their Emilio math, that means one street light is going to be going for like 184 million. That's what it's supposed to cost to install one street light. So yes, we're talking about the discrepancies in the budget or in the projects that were unable to account for this money. But we're also talking about the fact that this money, the one that they actually or supposedly or rather gave money to, or they allocated money to, we don't know the trustworthiness of this project, or if at all they are going to actually be implemented.
Okay, let's take a look at the Federal Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy. There we have about 4 billion. 4 billion plus was set aside for various capital projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. But the areas for project worth 3 billion plus out of the 4.8 were not mentioned. Let's move quickly to the Federal Ministry of Water Resources. Here we see big numbers. In this Federal Ministry of Water Resources, we have 281 billion plus, which was budgeted for various capital projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. Regrettably, the areas for projects worth 54 billion plus out of these 281 were not indicated. Well, we now have this very one that is again from the Federal Ministry of Health. Big numbers. 539 billion plus was earmarked for various capital projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. But the areas for projects worth 146 plus. Check the difference. 539. And then the difference we have 146 in the billions out of the 539 were not revealed. Wow. Wow, it's just getting much more interesting. Let's check out the other Ministry of Works. This one is the one that is Ministry of Works. In this Ministry of Works, we have about 987 billion, close on 1 trillion.
Right.
was allocated for various capital projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. This report says, however, the area for projects worth 44 billion 428 million 40,905 out of 987 plus billions were not stated. Chai! In a patient Jonathan, she go talk say, there is God though. There is God though, National Assembly. There is God though. Let's now look at this. You see my lamentation. What do you think? There is God. Because in each of these 20 ministries that they were able to profile, that we are bringing out, in each one of them you see substantial amount of money, a very big chunk. And that's why I agree with you, Divine. We don't need to be talking that this 2024 budget was padded. It was not just loaded.
It was stomped on.
It was stomped on.
Stuffed.
That is what we see. Well, you can go to comment section. Tell us what you feel about all of this, and the insensitivity of this government is really out of hand. You mean that, you know, is it Ajuri Aguleri or whatever they call his name? Ngelari has coming out and saying that Chief Tinubu does not sleep till 2 and 3 a.m. I mean, he doesn't see all of this.
We see why he's awake. He was probably part of the people that was, you know. Well,
it is really unfortunate that all these are gone out. And again, I will want to, you know, tell our people that if you doubt it, this is also published in Sahara Reporters. It has been published in several of these. And we mentioned the name of the consulting firm. Let's see that very page 1 again so that we see clearly where this very particular thing is coming out from. This is a document titled Final Summary Analysis of the Harmonized 2024 Budget has been passed. And this is produced by Micro Expressions Consult, submitted to the National Assembly. This is an overview of the key items and figures from the 2024 budget.
Well, you know what's interesting? If we're having these conversations, especially when the budget has not been passed, because I expect some level of scrutiny. We're talking about, this is the budget of a country of over 250 million people, right? A country that is in their need of good governance, a country that is in their need of actual support, that we have insecurity, we have banditry, we have food insecurity, we have hunger, right? So I expect a level of thoroughness, a level of scrutiny when we're actually talking budget. But now, it is already passed, and that is why we're discussing these discrepancies. And my question is, did the Senate, or rather did the executive or the judiciary, did they not actually see these things before eventually passing it to law? Why is this conversation happening after it is already law? That's to tell you that the people that were elected there have ulterior motives for being there. Because I see no reason why you're actually there. Is it that they did not notice these discrepancies, or they were actually the people that actually made sure that these discrepancies existed in the first place? And why was he passed into law without having any form of, you know, thoroughness, any form of scrutiny to say, you know what, why is this not adding up? What is this here for? Why is it like the figures are not tallying? We have Accountant General of the Federation, we have Auditor General or the Chief Auditor of the Federation. What are their roles? Like what roles do they play? Or do they not get to see these budgets before it's passed? Because the only reason why we're even having this conversation, let's be very honest, is because of the courage of Senator Ningi of Bauchi Central, or Bauchi South rather, right? If he was unable to actually have this conversation, then that means we would not know about this. That's the truth of it. Because if he had not done this whistleblowing, we've seen, of course, now we understand why they're actually suspending him, because it means a lot to them, and it means a lot to the ruling class that their tracks are hidden and their tracks are covered, because we're not talking truly about budget padding. I think this budget was really about, you know what, let's just siphon money and we'll just, you know, camouflage it under 2024 budget, because 5 billion, it is really, really, you know,
a total. When you aggregate all what has been done, right, and you are able to do the deduction, you will be able to arrive at 6.6 trillion. This is not pardon, guys. This is not pardon. This is stealing. purely stealing. There is God, though. Anyway, we'll come back again. We keep digging deep. We'll keep looking at the reports that are being that is coming out and all of that. But meanwhile, let's take a sound bite from Ndume that actually said previously that the animals. What did he say, please?
He said all animals are not okay. All animals are not equal, or rather, some animals are more equal than the others.
Yeah, in reference to his colleagues at the
constituency and the money they
so,
receive.
and from what we have discovered, not a pardon, but a whopping stealing of 6.6 unaccounted ghost projects across the 6 geopolitical zone in Nigeria.
6.6 trillion that there were no projects allocated to. We're not talking about the other parts that we don't know, or whether or not the allocation that got those money is actually useful. Because I'm very certain if we go through that official document of the budget, we're going to see that there are a lot of frivolous money that was, or rather frivolous things that money was allocated to. But we're just talking about 6.6 trillion that no project was allocated to. So we're not talking about the ones that there were projects allocated to, or whether or not they make sense. We're just saying this is the one that nobody said anything about. This is just money that we're meant to cover our eyes to. So,
okay, let's take a listen to Ndume and how he tends to look at the insecurity, the kidnapped children from the Kaduna state that is now trending on 1 billion naira ransom, and of course Chief Tinubu has said he is not going to pay a dime. Let's take a listen.
What the position of Mr. President and by extension the federal government, but that decision should be taken and backed with action. What I mean is I still believe, Sheung, that if we are serious, these bandits are in Nigeria, they are not anywhere. And these bandits can be traced overnight.
Maybe they are still within the bushes and the forests of Kaduna
Definitely,
State.
they are not outside the country.
I'm even saying maybe they are within the bushes of Kaduna State,
it's
where
possible.
they kidnap the students.
So and now that the president have given them a serious marching order, I'm sure the result will be out. When bandits kidnapped and killed legislative aides to one of our senators, and I must commend my friend, the FCT minister. He put a bounty on the head of the 2 kidnappers, and then they are now history because he, succeeded in arresting them and then bringing them to justice. So the government can do that, and I think that is all I can say about that.
Is anything working at?
Again, Ndume is talking to Nigerians that we are really not serious. And as you can see, we are really not serious probably in fighting the insurgency, because we don't expect a kidnap that happened on Monday is talking about 40 trillion above the budget we are talking about. And we have another one, the 286 school children that we are now talking about 1 billion. And he clearly stated on this interview that Nigeria is not serious. Because if we are serious, then we should be able to quell this very particular menace.
It's just funny for him to actually sit there and have conversations about Nigerians not being serious or Nigeria not being serious. But I think he's in the right corridor of power, or rather he's in the place of power. He has more power than the average Nigerian to actually work some change or wrought some change in these places he's talking about. It's more than just sitting there to say Nigerians are not serious. You are in the Senate. Raise it up as a motion. Talk about it, right? Maybe they will listen to you. Maybe our voices are not loud enough for us to actually get some response or favorable response from the government, right? And so speaking about him saying, commending his friend, the FCT minister, of course he was going to commend his friend because, they are all the political class together and they all sit and dine in the same tables together. But that's really besides my point.
He's commending the Chief Bola Tinubu for not trying to pay a dime.
Well, he also commented, or rather commended FCT minister. He said he's doing well because he put a bounty on some kidnappers and all of that.
But a lot of mistake that these people are doing that we spoke earlier on. They should not go to the press and be talking about negotiation with the terrorists or the bandits that they were talking about. They shouldn't be talking about it open, you understand? Because by so doing, they are putting the lives of these school children at risk.
That's what we're trying to say. When we need them to speak, they don't speak. When we need them to keep quiet, now all of a sudden they have a lot to say. Because we remember when Senator Jaribe was actually talking about this 500 million and saying all of them were culpable, they offed his mic, right? But when it got to the time now when we don't need them to speak about their negotiations, we now have people coming out to say, oh, we're not paying a dime to these people, all of that. And the funny thing is, in the midst of all of this kata, our vice president is busy approving sponsorship of over 30 top government officials to London for a workshop and an economic summit amidst the hunger and all of that. He said the meeting is going to be something that is, or rather the workshop is going to help them to, you know, deliver their duties better and their responsibilities better.
Well, our house is on fire,
right,
and they went to spend money. How many contingents do we even know attended that? That should be in UK.
Right, but the Accountant General of the Federation was actually part of it. The Accountant General that probably should have paid attention to all this padding or stuffing in the budget. She was away in London having conversations about, you know, whatever they went there for. So, I mean, that's really
I think, yes. Well, I think that is about 30 officials spending our money when they have no business to go into UK to do all of this thing. But let's even take a listen to how it was treated at our rise. Credit to them.
No.
I looked at the picture again. I thought maybe it was AI generated.
No, it wasn't AI generated.
But
the event happened.
I think I spoke to somebody who said, yeah, that he too tried to double check and that people actually, you know, went to hold a workshop in London. My impression is that people are very bold in this country.
So,
yes. When we talk about patriotism, these are the people we should direct that charge to. I mean, we have Yankari Games Reserve. We have Obudu Cattle Ranch. We have Sambisa. Well, they won't go and have a. They won't go for a workshop in. We have Akwa Ibom State, where they have very nice resorts.
Nigeria, why?
And then to go and discuss public service accounting, 36 commissioners of finance went to London under the auspices of the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation. The Accountant General of the Federation. Then, of course, you know, if the Accountant General's office is involved in this kind of wastage, then, of course, what accounting
is in the budget
are they really doing in that particular office? I think it's scandalous, and I think this should be investigated further.
Absolutely.
We must know the commissioners of finance who took the people's money to go and do workshop in London. Workshop that they can do. What's the name of your village? You must have a beautiful hotel there.
You know,
they could have gone to.
It's beautiful. You were there, yes.
To discover Nigeria.
I mean, come on, guys, really.
Where we no go here for Nigeria here, then go leave the whole of this place. They keep spending. Is this how they want to implement Oron Science reports? I thought they said it's putting, you know, trying to reduce government expenses. But this one will be saying Accountant General themselves. Now then they pack themselves. They never see UK. How much they take pay flight money now to Waka say they go UK? Because all these things now for dollar and then they pay them, you understand?
Right. When
you hear how much these people would have spent in going this place, you just pity this Nigeria. These people are all taking us as jokes. And you are talking earlier about yes in Wike or the FCT minister.
Right.
He was even talking about that these very bandits that do terrorize Abuja and kidnap people, that they are known, sort of, you understand, that they are sponsored. So why are we not getting those people who are sponsoring them? And it can't be a poor man that will sponsor a terrorist. That will not happen. You know, let's even hear from him how he said that. Niger.
And we must have to tell ourselves the simple truth. Also, most of the kidnappings to you here sometimes are managed by people. There are some internal arrangements. Take for example, you have a housekeeper in the house, you have a driver who plot to kidnap the child of their master. In that case, what do you want us to do? All we can do is to say how the person has been kidnapped is being released. But to stop it will be difficult because it's an in-house arrangement. where a driver that is involved to go and bring a child from school will mastermind the kidnapping. So these are the things we should know.
We're not talking about in-house right now. We're talking about kidnapping and abduction.
I said some of this. I said some of this too are internally arranged. I'm not saying that we don't have kidnapping. Mind you, two most wanted notorious kidnappers, we have gotten them. And that's why you see the level of kidnapping has reduced. So we are not saying that we have gotten to where we want to be, but we're doing a lot. And people must acknowledge that what used to be is not what we are seeing now. And we'll continue to say, we'll continue to do our best by providing the best for our people. That's what we're trying to say.
Thank you, sir.
We cannot give you the assurance that there will be no one form of criminality. Nobody can say that. As far as we are human.
So that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. This is the chairman.
We go just come out for anywhere where we say then see camera, then go they talk anyhow. Talk say something they stage managed. People wey carry 280 something children. Now they talk say they stage managed. So that's why they talk say they no one pay money. It's really very, very appalling. If they know it's state managed, they should, go and deal with the situation. Right. Not come out here and be telling people that their children are inside the bush.
I mean, it's sponsored, but you've been unable to actually go after the people that sponsored this terrorism if you claim that it's sponsored. To be honest, I even saw the frustration of the person interviewing, because she had to ask, she was like, we're talking about kidnapping, and he had to, do the whole, bravado, so he lords it over her. And I have to correct an impression. I don't want to believe that he genuinely thinks that. And that's why I say the political, or rather the ruling class, they're so detached from reality. Because what do you mean by that what used to be or is no longer, or what it is currently is better than what used to be? Between the last report we saw, they said between May, from which this current administration actually resumed office, that we've had 4,500 approximately 4,500 kidnappings, right? Some people have been unable to account for them. Different things has happened within that time. So what do you mean that it has reduced and that we must acknowledge? What is the use of an acknowledgement when we don't see it in our reality?
These ones we're talking about happened this week. And
you're talking about an acknowledgement. Acknowledgement of what? We don't see whatever it is you think you're doing. Whatever it is you think you're doing, or this government thinks that they are doing, I think it's somewhere in their imagination or somewhere in their head, because Nigerians are yet to feel the reality, the impact of these, keeping up late and all of that, as they all allege that all of them don't used to sleep. My point in all of this is that we need to see the physical, the practical solutions. If not,
and most especially to our own senators, they should stop using the National Assembly to be a crime scene. They should not do that. Why are you guys doing this? Please stop. Let's put our eyes on this very budget. That's all. And as our time don't they give us signal make we begin the waka come off for studio. I'll come back to tell obedience say our cooperative society, the multi-purpose Obedient Family Cooperative Society, we keep urging everybody to join our WhatsApp platform, because we are going to have a meeting on Saturday by 7 p.m. I'm going to send in the Zoom invite link probably by tomorrow, so that we have the link to join for the meeting. And the aim for this Obedient Cooperative Society is simply to help ourselves moving forward, starting with assisting the less privileged with food items, and also assisting the people who are into agriculture production, so that they could produce more, and then we take it off from there. All of this we have to sit down and discuss within ourselves and find a formal way forward. So whatever you are doing, please do join. We have the people who are going to form what we call the financial members, and then the non-financial members which needs assistance. Please look at the description of this very broadcast, and you will find the WhatsApp platform where you enter, and you find the Obedient Family Cooperative community in place. Do join. Thank you for watching us today. Until tomorrow when we come back your way. Bye for now.
A peaceful protest to let the colonial and the federal government and Nigeria as a whole to know that we are ready and we want the company in our land to operate and to follow the law and suit of PIA.
In Ondo State, where Konoye have an operation, in Bayelsa, where they have an operation, the PIA has been enacted.
Our benefit, we know the same. Which benefit? They need to sign a PIA.
So if they did not answer us, we shut down the flow station. Is it a flow station? Yes, a flow station, including tap farm. We shut down the operation here.